Hello. We are live on the House of the Dragons Y'all recap show. We just watched episode 8, which I believe episode 8 has a title. Trying to remember what it was. I'm going off of memory, but we do have a title for episode 8. We'll get to that shortly. But thank you so much for joining us. This has been such a fun ride recapping these episodes with all of you guys. So it's just been really fun doing this, and it's kind of bittersweet because it's like it's over. It's it's the end, and we don't have until another like year and a half, almost 2 years until the next the next season. But we do have next year a Night of the Seven Kingdoms, so we can look forward to that as part of the A Song of Ice and Fire universe. But for now, we're going to talk about episode 8, which is our season 2 finale of House of the Dragon. And of course, I have Angelica and Ryan here to break down this episode with me. Again, thanks for joining us. And I guess we'll talk about what happened last week, or like things that's happened on social media, and then jump into the recap.
Yes. So I would say so much has transpired. I honestly can barely remember the last episode because this episode just had so much meat. I think there was just a lot of excitement with the new Dragon Riders. That was like the thing. And after like talking to a few of my friends, we were all very concerned with Jace using slurs, using mongrel with the hard M. So that we're looking forward to Jace getting up out of his feelings. Apparently that didn't happen this episode, but next season we hope he redeems himself because he was such a lovely character, and then he just got bratty on us. So those were the hot topics from last week. What did you guys hear? What did you guys see? Jamie, I know you thread. So what's the discussion on thread?
Oh, one of my threads went kind of viral, and I just randomly posted about Mr. Orwell, and I just said that this man is so ready to retire from his black job.
A job.
I mean, the poor guy, he's going through it. Like last week, he's being told one thing by Larys to kind of take care of Aegon, and then he's being told by Aemon to kind of like make sure that you over medicate him so that he doesn't kind of wake up. So like he's being told all these different things, and then Allison is like asking him for advice. So like 1 minute he's like, being like a therapist, he's being a nurse, he's doing all of these sort of like unscrupulous things, and it's like, man, I didn't sign up for this. This ain't part of the job application. So yeah, that tweet or that thread rather went viral.
Right. Yeah, black job. That's been a hot topic. So that's really good.
Seriously.
On point, Jamie. What about you, Ryan? Any thoughts from last week?
I did see the episode name, by the way, The Queen Whoever Was is what I see on here.
Who never was. Oh, after our queen who died. After
no, she's a queen whoever was. So
that's the name of the episode for
yeah. That's what I see. Yeah.
The queen whoever was.
Ever was. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that's what I'm seeing according to Mac's app. So if they change it, you guys, that's what I saw on my app first. I don't know if it's gonna change.
Okay. Well,
that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't see it was nothing like too different what you guys saw. Like everybody kept recapturing that ending shot with her and the dragons and putting like different stuff underneath it because it was like the whole battle scene that everybody was excited about. So yeah, everybody was just hyped, like you said, to find all the dragon seeds and get that going.
Yeah, like come outside. We not finna jump you, Vhagar. Yeah. And I think the thing that I tried to stay away from was the leaks. There was a few scenes from the finale that got leaked, and I was like, nope. Nope.
And people were actually sharing the leaks. I was like, you guys were better than this. Like, I don't know how, probably Twitter was probably way more worse than
Twitter was bad. Twitter
was like, But Threads, even on there, people were like sharing screenshots, and I had to block some people, like people that were sharing screenshots. I had to block. And then what I did was I just started muting every tag that said like House of the Dragon, the Dragons Y'all tag, like anything that had to do, even with Game of Thrones, I muted that because I didn't want to take any chance in seeing any of the leaks.
Right.
You know, I want to be surprised, like just like everybody else. I don't want to see leaks.
Yeah.
I don't know why people do that. Why share stuff on social media? Like if you see a leak, keep it to yourself, you know, if you want to watch it like, illegally, like, okay, that's cool, whatever. But I don't want to see that. So anyway.
They're like, I got this gold that everybody needs to see.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think for us, because we're press and we're used to getting access a little bit ahead of time, we already know, no, don't talk about it. Don't bring it up.
We don't talk about it. So
we don't want no problems.
Yeah. Because HBO will be like, really? Access denied.
Right. Forevermore. Yeah. So we're not messing up that. So let's dive into this week's episode, The Queen Who Ever Was. What I will touch on is the embroidery or the tapestry in the opening credits had an addition that I did not notice before, which were all the dragons that were claimed, right? I think it was a total of 7, which is what Rhaenyra has in her repertoire. So I thought that was pretty cool how they added that to the final tapestry of the opening sequence. So let's get into the episode itself. So we open with Tywin Lannister meeting with the leaders of the Triarchy, and they demand a very high price to break the blockade of the Gullet. The price in question is the Stepstones. And there was a moment in this scene where Tywin is basically claiming to be broke, which Lannisters are never broke. So I thought that was funny. And the leaders of the Triarchy are like, come on, son, you're a Lannister. I don't believe you. And then Tywin's like, well, we need that money for this war to come, right? We can't just give it to you guys. So they end up demanding the Stepstones. Tywin is pretty hesitant to give that up because the Stepstones are a group of islands or an archipelago, and it's between Essos and Westeros. So if the Triarchy has control of the Stepstones, remember that big war that was fought last season? They essentially control trade within the Narrow Sea. And they're like, we're just going to charge a toll. No big deal. And Tywin is like, no, you guys are going to drive up the prices. This is extortion. But they have, he has no choice. He agrees to it. And he says, Aemon will have my head for this. And they're like, don't worry about it. Our fleet, we're going to destroy the blockade. He's going to basically thank you. The Stepstones is a small price to pay. So Tywin's like, great. We agreed. He gets up because he wants to take a nice hot bath and have some food. And they tell him there's another condition. In order for the fleet to sail with him, he will need to get the approval of their admiral, Sharako Lohar, who's played by Abigail Thorne, because they're not going to sail without him. They claim it's a him. So Tywin's like, all right, introduced me, and it turns out to be a woman. Now, I will say there's a difference in the book. Sharako Lohar is actually a man, so this was a gender bend, but I kind of like this change, and it adds an interesting dynamic. And so Lohar, or Admiral Lohar, ends up being a woman, and she finds Tywin to be inferior. She calls him a thin man. She's like, what are you, a poet? And she refuses to sail with him. Because as far as she's concerned, she is not going to be with a man or sail with a man or follow a man that cannot best her. And Tywin's like, best you in what? So I'm actually skipping ahead here because I feel like all these scenes might as well go together, but they end up fighting in mud. And they are going at it. Lohar, even though she's a woman, is beating the crap out of Tywin. But apparently Tywin gets some heart at the end and bests her, and he ends up earning her respect. She ends up inviting him to dinner. And at the table, she tells him he's a very impressive man with many talents, and that she would like for him to have babies with her many wives. And Tywin's like, How many wives? So I'll stop there for that scene or for that group of scenes with Tylan and Admiral Lohar. Your thoughts?
First of all, Emmanuel, hi. I saw Jamie pop up the comment while you were reading, Angelica.
Hey, Emmanuel.
But yeah, I love that triarchy scene. Like to start out with, it was like the mafia sit down, like who's about to control the product. I thought it was so interesting to be able to see Tylan do that, because we always know they got money. You know, they talk a good game, right? They always get put in these kind of situations. So it was interesting to kind of see that play out. And yeah, Admiral Lohar, I was like not ready, but I was so excited to see it. I was just like, what is going on right here? And the fact that you said changing up the gender is fun, because we already know in this world, like the guys make all the rules, they never ready for it. But I just love how they keep doing that to us, where it's like the women take control somehow, you know, somehow outsmart the men, you know, no matter what the odds are. So yeah, I just love that levity to this whole scene, because we know what's about to come, you know, all the drama and angst and all that kind of stuff coming up. But this scene I felt was kind of light and interesting to see play out.
Yeah, I'm with you. Jamie?
Yeah, I love Lohar. Lohar had me cracking up during the whole episode because, first of all, she was, I don't know if it was on purpose or if it was by accident, but the fact that she kept pronouncing Tylan's name wrong throughout the whole entire episode just had me stitches. First of all, when she first meets him, that she refers to him as Tywin was just like classic. I was just like, okay, shout out to Tywin Lannister. But then she just like calls him. I was waiting for her to call him Tyrone next.
Not Tyrone.
But she calls him like every single name but Tylan. So it was kind of like a cool, funny, like running gag throughout the episode. But I love Lohar. Her character was absolutely funny to me. I did miss the part where, because at first, I think is it Captain Lohar?
Admiral.
Admiral.
He's an admiral, yeah.
Admiral Lohar was introduced as a he, but then she comes out. So I didn't connect the part where she was introduced as a woman, even though they referred to Admiral Lohar as a he. So I was a little confused by that. But anyway,
I'm wondering if they did to throw Tylan off, maybe like he and then pop up and it's like, boom, it's this woman that's about her business, or maybe Lohar does refer to Lohar as a him.
But I was doing a little bit of reading about Lohar because I was very interested about this character, and I was also interested about the actress that plays Lohar. And apparently in the book, even though Lohar was played by a man, I think Lohar was also a little bit androgynous at some points. Like there were also parts where, even though the soldiers referred to Lohar as he, him, there were times where he really didn't have, or the character didn't really have like definitive pronouns, according to George R.R. Martin. So I have to read into that a little bit more, but I think the character has always been kind of more on the androgynous side. Yeah. Gotcha. So, but yeah, and Abigail Thorne identifies as transgender as well. And I thought that was cool that they cast a transgender actress in the role. Yeah. So, but yeah, I absolutely love this character. And I honestly did not expect to see Tylan Lannister, of all people, like in a mud fight. I was just like, okay, this is interesting. So that was a really cool scene to watch as well. So yeah, great moments.
That's an extra layer. They add some extra layer to it, more nuance. Now that we know background on Abigail. I will say Abigail was given Daario Naharis. Like the swag was there. Like I was like, okay, Daario, I see you. The original Daario, not the
yeah. There was two. Yeah.
There was two. Yeah. Good scene though. Good scene. I did enjoy it. It definitely like I'm gonna call you Raina. Ryan said it definitely gave levity. Too many Ray names around.
I know. So yeah.
Yes. So we end up cutting to Aemond Targaryen. He is infuriated by the fact that Rhaenyra has acquired 3 new dragons, which have now outmatched him and Vhagar. So he decides to have a hissy fit and sets fire to a coastal town called Sharp Point. Then we cut to Aegon in his chamber at the Red Keep, and he's attended to by Maester Orwell. And he calls him a good man. And I was like, that's true. Maester Orwell, he don't bother nobody. He just does his job. And he gives him, like milk of the poppy or something just to help ease his pain. And Larry walks in to have a word. He tells Aegon that they must leave King's Landing, and there's reference made to Rhaenyra and her dragons. They're now in danger. Also, they're in danger from Aemond. Like, he's angry and he's unpredictable. But Aegon refuses to leave. He's like, let's just go ahead and, use this time that Aemond is away to get our power back. And then when he returns, he's going to be a prisoner. And then Larys is like, but what will happen when Rhaenyra descends upon them with her 7 dragons? And they have no protection because Vhagar will not be able to defend them without Aemond. Larys proposes they flee to Essos. He has money with the Bank of Bravos, money he diverted from Harrenhal, mind you. They can live off that for a while. And Aegon basically says, like, I'm not running. What do I even have to live for? I'm burnt. I'm crippled. My dragon is dead. And I'll pause right there for a second because it seems like they intentionally let Aegon believe that Sunfire was still dead. Because remember, Aemond and Kristen obviously know this, and if Aemond wants to take control, he wouldn't have told Aegon about this. So as far as Aegon's concerned, his dragon's dead, and apparently his penis has exploded, which I did not need to know that detail, but he put that out there, and it when he pees, it goes down his leg. It was very detailed. So I kind of feel bad for Aegon because I mean, I guess now he can't really hurt anyone, right? Like, he can't make bastards. He can't violate any young maidens. He doesn't have the equipment. He's a eunuch, basically. But Larys tells them that, they have to leave for a while, but when they return, it'll be after Aemond and Rhaenyra take each other out, right? And he can return as Aegon the Peacemaker. And then Aegon says, I want to be Aegon the Realm's Delight, which was actually Rhaenyra's name, her nickname, before she became this hated queen. So I'll stop there for your thoughts on that scene. It was kind of a lot.
Yeah, they were trying real hard for you to feel real bad for Aegon in this scene, because it was just sitting there listening to him talking about, like you said, even going to the bathroom was an issue. Yeah. But it's like one of those, the mighty have fallen. It's like, sir, I don't really know what you want to happen in this moment. Like, I mean, the things played out how you thought she was doing, like you thought she was killing it when it was all together. So, I mean, it's kind of like you reap what you sow, right? Like, what you going to do at this moment? But it is interesting to see Larry's trying to be like, okay, I can help you out. We don't really know what his angle is, but he's like, all right, let's just disappear for a little bit. Let's just go somewhere and see what happens. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, Aegon ain't doing nothing up in the King's Landing. Like, he might as well go on and get out anyway, because there's no telling who's coming after him first. He's like barely hanging on. Like, he got these rehab sessions that's way too long. So, I mean, he might as well kind of get out of Dodge. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Jamie, any thoughts?
Yeah, so going back to Aemond, I just thought the fact that he got into his feelings, I mean, this guy is so unhinged. When it comes to him being offended by something that hurts his ego, he reacts in just the worst way. Because the fact that he got showed up by Rhaenyra and her dragons, you react by, like, burning an entire village? What is wrong? What's wrong with you? This guy's got problems. So yeah, I just thought that was way just a terrible reaction to that last episode. And then as far as the scene with Aegon and Larys, I thought it was actually funny. I mean, I guess it was supposed to be a moment where we're supposed to feel sorry for the guy, but I'm just thinking to myself, like, Larys is trying to tell you that your brother is trying to kill you. We need to get out of King's Landing. Your life is in danger. And he's like, yeah, but you know, I can't pee anymore, and my sausage has exploded, or whatever how he described it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, who cares? Like, I mean, obviously it's something that's detrimental to him, but your life actually, it won't matter if your life is gone, right? So I just thought that was kind of funny in that moment, that this is something he's thinking about when Larry's is thinking about a much greater threat that's happening in his life. And also, I'm glad that you brought that up, Angelica, about Sunfire, because I was confused. I was like, wait a second. That's not how it plays out. But okay. Yeah. So now that you said that, it makes sense that they would lead him to believe that Sunfire is dead, because then, yeah, you know, you want to put him in that state where he thinks that there's nothing else that he can do. Yeah, because I'm like, but that's not how the story goes. But
yeah, right. I'm like, no, Sunfire is needed at the end. Hold up. It confused me as well. I had to like think. I'm like, well, why? Oh, and I put it together because I too on the first watch was like,
yeah,
like Sunfire ain't dead. Sunfire got, unfortunately, has a role to play.
Let y'all know he ain't really dead. Just want
no, that threw me all the way off. But yeah, I was with you, and then I had to like sort it out in my head. So yeah. Poor Aegon and the eunuch, poor guy. So we go to the Vale. And Rhaena clearly has abandoned her little brothers, right? Her half brothers, Viserys and Aegon. And she's in search for this wild dragon. She's wandering, she's cold, she's thirsty, but she's determined to claim this wild dragon. So we go from one potential dragon rider to actual dragon riders. We see Jace, who encounters Ulf and Hugh in the Black Council chambers. Ulf's feet are propped up on the painted table. Disrespectful. He has no home training and none. And then Hugh's fussing with him that, you know, we have to go to dragon train. And Ulf's like, I'll get to that. Let me just satisfy myself. He's eating, he's drinking, he's having a grand old time. And Jace enters and demands he remove his feet from the table. And Ulf really don't pay him no mind. He was like, who are you, boy? And he has to remind him that is Jaehaerys Velaryon, the crown prince. Ulf stands up like, oh, my bad, and hugs Jace. And then he tousles his hair and comments on how dark it is. And I'm like, Ulf, you need to calm down. Jace already don't like you. And then he compares them to each other. He's like, we are one and the same. We're both dragon riders. And you know how Jace feels about that. So he's just pushing all of Jace's buttons. Irritated, Jaffrey busts in. He calls, you know, being a dragon rider a sacred right, something he knows nothing about. He basically says, forgive him. He has no home training. And Jace is like, all right, whatever. He tells them about the burning of Sharp Point. And he pretty much tells them to get serious. I mean, he's really more focused on Ulf and his behavior. He asks him, like, are you prepared to face these, you know, Vhagar in battle? You know, if you hinder us in any way due to your laziness, due to your sloth, I will have you hanged and your body fed to the dogs in the streets. So you can see, like, the Targaryen dragon come out of him. And then Hugh and Ulf end up going to training. So I'll pause there because that was a bit of a meaty scene between Rhaena and then the other dragon riders. Thoughts on that moment there with Jace confronting Ulf?
I just can't tell if Ulf is like, he's trying to deflect like so hard to not really pay attention to what his situation is. Like if he's just trying to play ignorant. I also can't tell, like my other thought was, is he like the player that gets drafted that like spends all the money and it's like, oh, well, where did all my money go? What did I do? You know what I mean? Like, I just can't, like, I just know he just really got on my nerves. That's all I know about that scene. Cause I was just like, you got the opportunity, you know, to be on this dragon, to be where you are. And this is what you do. You know what I mean? Like you just stumbled onto the dragon. This is what you're going to do. So yeah, it was very irritating in that whole scene.
Irritating for sure. Jamie.
Yeah, irritating with a U. Yeah, Ulf was getting on my last nerves. People on Threads was like, they need to Silverwing needs to do like a Dracarys on him because he
needs to die.
The disrespect. I'm just like, bro, you first of all, you just got here. And I mean, we kind of got a sense of his personality already, the way he was like boasting and bragging about his Targaryen heritage. So we got a sense of the kind of man that he is, but still, like, now you're in, the confines of the realm. You need to have a little bit of decorum when you're in the presence of the court. And he doesn't even get that. And I felt like it was a little bit of a dig at Jace when he was like, we're cut from the same cloth. I was like, excuse me?
No, we're not.
No, you're not. Like, just because you guys are both bastards doesn't mean that you guys are cut from the same cloth. Like, Jace is on a totally different level than you are, bruh. So yeah, I am not like an Ulf. Like, at first he was kind of funny and kind of quirky to me, but now I don't like the way he's disrespecting the prince at all. Like, that's not cool. That's not cool. So yeah. And as far as Rhaena is concerned, I'm just like, couldn't she have brought some water with her? Like, I can't be back. Like, girl, you out there in the Vale by yourself with a cute dress on, like, you and big friends, like, some Slim Jims, some beef jerky, something with while you out here looking for this dragon. Poor girl, she was thirsty, drinking from the brook. So yeah.
Oh man. And my thing was like, did she tell her people that she was going to leave? Like, are they not looking for her? Like, I don't
think they know. I don't think they would know because, basically it's in defiance of Lady Jane, because Lady Jane didn't tell her that there was a wild dragon that was, flying around. So she's kind of doing this on her own. So no, I don't think they know.
She left her brothers. She left the eggs. Like, she said, bump this. I'm like, Rhaena, you can't shirk responsibility because you feel out of place, girl. And then she out here on her own, like you said, in a cute dress with no beef jerky. So what are we going to do? So we end up going to Driftmark? Yes, Driftmark. I'm losing my place on this map of Westeros. Rhaenyra meets with Corlys. They discuss the new Dragon Riders. She knows nothing of who they are or their strength of character, but she's aware that Corlys has had interactions with Adam of Hall, and Corlys says regretfully he has not had many dealings with him, but he's heard he's a good man. So I'm like, yes, the only one with some sense. Adam, give it up for Adam. He gets good reports.
Yep.
Good Carfax. I don't know. Good Yelp reviews.
Carfax.
Yeah. So they end up discussing, the fact that Vhagar is now outnumbered. But Corlys reminds her about Helena's dragon Dreamfire, who is a formidable dragon. But Rhaenyra is like, well, Helena has no taste for riding, and she's no warrior. And so Corlys is like, well, Aemon is pretty desperate and he will not be denied. So they're implying that he will force Helena to ride. And then Rhaenyra agrees with his viewpoint. And then she asks after his ship, the sea snake. I'm sorry, I'm stumbling on my words right now. So Corlys says, they're going to join the blockade the following day, but he's actually renamed the ship the Queen Who Never Was, obviously after his late wife. And he continues to say that everything he does for her now, which I was like, oh, pour one out for Rhaenys. And then Corlys reassures Rhaenyra his ships and his men belong to her. She has the power of her dragons. And now it is time to strike as the Lannisters and the High Towers are gathering their forces. He then mentions there's another player that they have to account for. And it cuts to Daemon, right? So right now, as far as Rhaenyra is concerned, she does not know where Daemon's loyalties lie. So he's at Harrenhal. His army is preparing to march in 2 days' time. Sir Simon brings Sir Alfred Brune to speak with Daemon. Remember, Rhaenyra sent him to Harrenhal to check in on Daemon. And then Sir Alfred asks to speak with Daemon privately. They speak in the Godswood. And I thought this was kind of funny where Sir Alfred was like, wait, did you hear that? And Damon's like, yeah, this place will have you like howling at the moon or something to that effect. But he basically tells him that he is loyal to King Viserys. And while Rhaenyra means well, they need a man to lead. He asked Daemon to declare himself as they need a king. And my man, Sir Simon, watches them from the shadows. Like, y'all not about to have no secret meeting without me knowing, okay? So right. I know that's right, Sir Simon. So I'll pause there. There's a lot going on between Rhaenyra and Corlys and Daemon and Sir Alfred Broom.
Yeah, I was waiting for Rhaenyra and Corlys to kind of have their moment. You know, when he became the hand, it was kind of just like there was other things going on, so they hadn't had a really, you know, moment. And I wanted to see like what his advice is going to be. You know, is he going to be like the rest of the guys still, where it's like, oh, well, you can't lead this way, and you don't really know what decisions you're making. I like how he kind of gave her the opportunity to let me explain. You might need to march now and go ahead and make this happen, but this is what's going on. So he's doing all right as the hand. You know, I'm not quite skeptical yet. I like it. I like where he's going with that one. But yeah, as far as like Daemon and Harrenhal and Sir Alfred is doing too much for me. And I was just like, sir, don't even try it. I was like, you had one mission. You supposed to go over here and figure out what Daemon was up to and go back and report back. I was like, now you don't need to be turncoating. But like you said, he didn't count on Sir Simon to be ready. Sir Simon was in the wings. So he didn't count on him to be ready. So I appreciate Sir Simon having her back like that. And I'm like, I hope she like marks that down. I don't know if she really like, as we go into the episode, I don't know if she really got where he was going with that. But I hope that's like one of the people she kind of, you know, can lean on in the future or keeps kind of close when she figures it out or figures out that he called her and was trying to let her know that something was going down sneaky. Because I definitely thought Sir Alfred was about to turn the whole story upside down. I was like, oh God.
Turncoating. I love that.
Turncoating.
Turncoating.
Yeah, so the scene with Corlys and Rhaenyra just, you know, I don't know if you guys have seen the memes on social media about Corlys, which I'm late to this. I'm late to the connection because I saw the pictures of Brian McKnight and Corlys, and I was like, why are people comparing him to Brian McKnight? And then
that's great.
It dawned on me because I do know the story about Brian McKnight, but I just didn't make the connection. So anyway, I thought it was very very interesting to see that Corlys, when Rhaenyra was asking about, you know, what do you know of Adam? Because she was kind of almost like probing him for information. He just kind of identified him as a shipwright, and that was it. And I'm like, so you ain't really gonna tell her like who Adam really is to you? So okay, Corlys, you keeping things real tight. And there was a line, I don't quite remember what it was, but he was just like, you know, it was something to the effect about, I wish that I had known him more. I wish I had something about he wished he had known him longer. He wished he had known. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Yeah. So, he said he didn't have many dealings with him, regretfully.
Yes. Yeah. So I liked the expression on actor Steve Toussaint's face when he said that, because it was just that was just a good moment of just like, okay, dramatic irony.
Double meaning.
Like, we know what the character doesn't know, but we the audience know. So that was really cool. And then going over to the Godswood over in Harrenhal with the scene with Sir Alfred Broom and Daemon, that scene where Alfred's like, did you hear that? Well, if you look at your closed captioning, the wind said traitor. So that's what he heard. Yeah.
Ooh, well, the wind doesn't necessarily. All right, Lulu's that.
The Godswoods be talking. They be talking. So yeah, they said traitor, and yeah, that's exactly who he is. And Daemon said, I wouldn't see you as a turncoat, or whatever the actual phrase was. But yeah, that I am so glad. I am so grateful that Sir Simon Strong was there to listen in on that interaction, because I wanted to make sure that Rhaenyra got the word of what was going down, what these dealings were, and the fact that her own counsel was basically a traitor. So yeah, that was wild. That was wild.
It was. Oh, I don't watch with closed captioning because then I focus too much on the words, but that's pretty cool that they threw that in there. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. I'll also add that tweet that I did tweet about Sir Simon being a real one and sneaking around and not playing no games. I'm like, oh, you're not about to have a meeting on my watch in secret. That did go viral. I think anytime I tweet about Sir Simon, Twitter eats it up. They just love them some Sir Simon. Good, so shout out to him. So we're back at the Red Keep. Sir Jasper Wilde tells Aemon that the new dragon riders are lowborn. Of Targaryen descent. So I think they had mentioned like 1 drop of blood. I'm like, is that the American 1 drop rule being inserted here? I don't know. And Rhaenyra apparently called on them and they were transported by ship to Dragonstone. So now Aemon demands that there are no ships allowed to leave or enter Blackwater Bay without clearance. And Sir Jasper says, well, this will affect the fishermen who are supplying food for the people. And Aemon's like, sacrifices must be made. So Aemon does not care about anything, let alone the small folk who just attacked his mom and his sister. He doesn't care, right? He wants what he wants. In her chambers, Helaena asks Alicent why everyone hates them as they did not order the blockade. And Alicent tells her that the small folk are angry and are looking for someone to blame. They expect the royals to break the blockade. Then Alicent asks if Helaena will leave King's Landing with her. And Helaena says, where will I go? They're then interrupted by Aemon, who enters and demands Helaena to ride out with him on Dreamfire. Alicent protests, and Helaena refuses because she will not burn anyone, right? Helaena is a pure soul. Aemon grabs her, sitting there in danger now more than ever. And then Alicent reminds him that Helaena is still the queen, and he spits, as were you, right? Alicent accuses him of burning Sharppoint because he was essentially in his feelings and it made him more powerful. But Helaena will not be corrupted by her brother, as she is the most gentle and deserving of his protection. Aemon says Helaena must learn to protect herself as their lives are at risk. And he's like, well, is that not what you want? And Alicent's like, no, you're not going to do it this way, right? Like, what if you break her mind? Like, this is not the way. And so Aemon ends up storming out the room. And then later we see Alicent meet with Master Orwell, and she asked him for safe passage and discretion. So I will pause there for that scene with Alicent and Helaena, Sir Jasper, Aemon, and then, Maester Orwell doing another black job.
He got 10 black jobs.
Oh, Aemon, man, he was struggling. He was struggling this episode to like grasp onto like whatever he could, and whoever was out to revenge, he could get revenge on. And he keep forgetting about the small folk. Sir, you got a whole kingdom. You cannot forget about the small folk. I don't care how bad you are, what you trying to go after. Like, these are still like within your kingdom, and you can't forget about how angry they are. They don't have anything to eat. Like, the last little thing they got to eat, you get ready to cut off. So it's just like he is just all over the place. And now no disrespect to Helaena, because girl got her gifts and powers. But how you gotta be to come in there to grab her to get on the dragon, all Dragonfire, to go out there? I'm like, come on now, come on. Now he was just grasping. He's grasping at it now. I'm like, so you just trying to get your whole family killed and just hoping you come out on the other side. Like take your sister out too. Like, it was insane. Like, and I don't know, maybe coming into like season 3, she got mad dragon riding skills. I don't know, but I just thought that was really just like his last like desperate attempt to go in there and try to grab her while they're in the middle of a conversation. I was like, bruh, just hang it up. It's like at this point you could just see like the desperation that you haven't got to see on his face before, and the way he just bouncing around and everything gives like you trying to go down tonight. It's just like it was just too much going on. It was like you need to calm down, stop setting everything on fire.
Not set everything on fire. Jamie, your thoughts?
Aemon doesn't care. I mean, he just burned a village, Sharp Point, which had a whole bunch of innocent civilians in it. So if he has the audacity to do something like that, I don't think he has any sympathy or has any sort of humanity towards the small folk. So his only agenda, he has, tunnel vision at this point because he's infuriated. His ego has pretty much just been shot with Rhaenyra showing him up with all those dragons, forcing him to flee in the other direction because Vhagar, Vhagar has him on this trip. Like, Vhagar really has him thinking that he is the SHIT. Really.
Yeah.
And now, because Rhaenyra has I think she has 7 dragons at this point.
Yes.
Vhagar or Aemon's like, oh snap, okay, things aren't what they seem. So he's infuriated. He's upset because he knows that she's a threat. So he's doing everything in his power to throw everything at her but the kitchen sink to get at her. And he's willing to even throw his own, to throw Helaena out there. I mean, this innocent. She's the innocent,
she is.
His own sister. And I just think that it's just so sad because she's like this sacrificial lamb in all of this. Like, she never asked for any of it. And now she's being forced to go into battle. Like, it just saddens me. So yeah, that was a pretty sad moment. I mean, seeing Alicent trying to, intervene, like, girl, this was a mess of your own making, so I don't even feel sorry for you in all of this. And then the scene with Maester Orwell again, like, I just want this man to retire. Now you're being forced to, help Alicent find safe passage. Is this in the job application?
They're working him hard.
Like, they're really working him hard to do all of these things, and I'm just like, I need him to be able to retire, and I hope he gets all the best benefits in that retirement.
What's that retirement package looking like?
It better be nice. Unfortunately, I think his vows are for life, so his retirement will be death.
Come on.
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
Because but I'll say this: I do not remember Maester Pycelle working this hard in the original series. They really are putting Orwell to work. You did bring up a good point. And I'll briefly touch on Helena's character. In the books, she was a dragon rider. She actually enjoyed going out on her dragon. Now, whether she was a fighter, that's a different story. But she, on the show, it says she has no taste for it. She barely rides her dragon. That wasn't her book counterpart. But they did a lot of changes to her, and we'll talk about all the differences with Helaena at the end of this recap. So we end up at the Riverlands, in the encampment of the High Towers and Cole and party. Criston Cole sits alone. We actually haven't seen him in like an episode or two. And he's staring at Alicent's handkerchief. Cannot say his name right. Sir Gawain confronts him about breaking his oath, and he presses his sword against Criston's throat. He says, a steward's son from Dorne, effing the queen of the 7 kingdoms. And Criston corrects him and calls her the former queen. And then he says, she didn't break any oath. Gawain threatens to send Criston to the wall. And Criston tells them he only will disgrace his family, right? If you reveal your sister's secret, it's not going to help anyone. Go ahead, send me to the wall. And then Criston goes on to explain that Alicent saved his life twice. Once from the headsman's axe. That was for her knowing that he slept with Rhaenyra but not reporting it. And then once from himself when he attempted suicide last season. Since then, Alicent is the beacon he follows. Criston goes on to say he's ashamed of his desires, right? Because his desire for women have brought him nothing but grief, which I was like, oh, not him self-reflecting for once. Gawain tells him to resist his desires like his brothers in the Kingsguard. And Criston's like, do they? Perhaps they do, or perhaps all men are corrupt. Then he says, then true honor is a mist that melts in the morning. And Gawain calls his philosophy bleak. Kristen says his philosophy was his sword. He used it to protect the righteous and dispense justice on the rest. But after what he saw at Rook's Rest, he says dragons dance and men are like dust under their feet, and all of their thoughts and endeavors are nothing. They march towards their own annihilation, and to die would be a form of relief. So Sir Criston Cole is brooding. He is poetic. He's showing some type of, regret for his actions. I don't think he's ever going to be able to redeem himself, but it was interesting to see Sir Criston kind of turn a page, so to speak. So any thoughts on that scene?
Yeah, I don't know what kind of therapy session he was trying to have, but he tried. It was a good, effort. He tried with his little therapy session there. I like how Gawain was like, bruh, like, can you get any more depressing right now? What is going on? Like, I like how he came at him straight on. It was like, how you gonna mess with my sister and everything like this? And Kristen just like, well, it's just bleak out here, and all the men are doing it. All the King's Guard, they're doing the same thing. Like, I just like how Gawain was kind of like calling him on it. And then, like, I guess the only point he made was just like, obviously, we know if all these men go up against these 7 dragons, they're going to have some problems. Like, we already seen this a little bit before. So I guess that's the only point he had. But yeah, I like how he tried to have his little, come to Jesus moment, if you will, and try to go back and repent for everything. Sir, it's too late. Like, you knew what you was doing. Like, get on up and go ahead and do your little fight thing that you got to do, because right now it ain't working.
Amen. Jamie.
So is this the first time that Gawain finds out that Cole and Alicent had hooked up? Because I feel like this is probably news to him.
He knew. I think he knew, or he thought, but I think Criston brooding over his sister's handkerchief and kissing it, he was like, oh, it's confirmed. Not you taking my sister's honor. So I think that's what caused them to say something.
Okay. Like, bro, why are you getting on that all of a sudden? Like, this is a little late. Okay. Well, interesting. But yeah, this scene was, I felt a little conflicted because I'm like, no, y'all not trying to make me feel sorry for Criston Cole. Not y'all trying to create a redemptive arc for this brother. I'm not.
He's no Theon. Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, right. Not Satan. Don't do this. But I really love the monologue in this scene. Yeah. Like you said, very poetic. And maybe I can ask this of you, Angelica, was a lot of this dialogue from the book, or was this really the show? Because it just was very beautiful.
This was definitely the show, because Criston was not redeemable at all in the book.
Oh, okay. I'm just talking about the dialogue, like about the mist and the wind or something. What he said about.
I don't remember. I'm gonna be honest. It's been a minute. I'm not gonna remember dialogue, but it don't sound like nothing that would come out of his mouth. So I think that might be, I think Sarah Hess wrote this episode. That might be Sarah.
Yeah, Sarah Hess. Yeah, it was very well. Shout out to Sarah, because the dialogue was just very beautiful in this scene. So I just enjoyed listening to Criston talk, and there were moments where it made me feel like, okay, I feel a little bit bad for you, bruh, but you're still trash. You're still trash at the end of the day. But yeah, that's the thing about these shows, like, with Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, that these characters, even though they go through this very dark path and they go through these unethical and immoral bounds, there's always a moment where they have their either their episode or even their arc of redemption. And I feel like this is probably that moment for Criston Cole. Will we see more of it in season 3? Who knows? Is he gonna, kind of reel in more into his villainy? We'll see how that plays out. But I appreciate that they at least, gave us at least some part of that to show that, at the end of the day, the guy does have a little bit of some kind of moral fiber to him. even though we all collectively don't like him.
Yeah, agreed. It showed his humanity, but like you said, you're still trash. So in the Dragonstone library, Bela teases Jace for pouting, and Harry, he has the perfect pout, just sitting there like, and he insists he's not pouting, he's reading. And then Bela knows he's angry, and Jace confides in her that the Dragon Seed are an insult to them and everything that makes them Targaryens. And Bela's like, I'm not upset about that. It's not going to do me any good. The dragons don't make me, and they don't make you. And she tells Jace to basically suck it up, stop sulking. He is the son of the rightful queen, and he is the crown prince. She reminds him that he is not the first noble heir that was not sired by his noble father. This is the way of the world, and to resent it only diminishes himself. And then she encourages Jace to prove his naysayers wrong. Get up. Do something. Take your place at your mother's side. So I was like, I know that's right, Bela. Give him that pep talk. Tell him to stop being a baby. So that was a small theme, but I do want your thoughts because she got him together. I hope.
Oh yeah. It was that was a mic drop moment. She was like, get up off your butt, stop sitting over here whining. Just shout out to Bethany for the whole season. I was like, if you do anything, just keep giving me more Bela in season 3. Do not take this moment away from me. This girl is acting her butt off, is killing it. I just love every time there's a scene with her doing her and Jace, and he needs that person to be like that kick in the butt, like stop whining. You need to know your worth. There's a lot of stuff moving around here. Stop second guessing who you are, who your parents are, what you're meant to do. Like, why you sitting around here moping? So I love that she gave him a little kick in the butt, like, get up and do what you got to do.
Yeah. Jamie?
Yeah, I mean, even though these two are betrothed to each other, they're a really good match for one another. Yeah. And Bela is like, and I put this on Threads, she is the anchor in their relationship, in their marriage. And Jace should be very grateful to have Bela in his life, because she drops these gems on him and gives him like really good sound advice, and she is just a great life partner to have. So for this to be like a couple that was a marriage of duty as opposed to a marriage out of love, I just think that they're fitting together as a couple is just it just seems like it's a good fit. So Jace is a very lucky guy, and I think Bela is amazing. I definitely hope to see way more of Bela in season 3 as well. I agree with your sentiments, Ryan. Like, Bethany is killing it in all of these episodes, and that episode that we saw of her with that fire line was just amazing. So yeah, I'm here for more Bela in season 3. Let's get it. Moon Dancer Bela all the way.
Right? Gathering Corlys, gathering Jace, gathering them anointment at the Black Council. She's just getting everyone together this season, and it's almost like she's stepping into Rhaenys' role, right? Rhaenys was the one that got people together. Now Bela's taking on that mantle. So definitely shout out to Bethany, and she needs more. She needs more story. So later, Rhaenyra holds dinner for the new dragon riders. She tells her 3 new riders that if they serve her well, she will make them knights. Of course, Ulf is excited about having this new potential title. And then Adam, that's my heart as well. He just tells Rhaenyra, like, I'm honored to serve you. I will do everything I can. And then he was like, so what do we have to do? He was like, what you getting us into? And Rhaenyra tells them to learn their training, learn their commands, as they will fly out in 2 days. They must secure the Riverlands, and they have to secure the strongholds of Old Town and Lannisport. They must crush the opposition. And Bela's concerned about killing innocents, but Jace tells her it is a necessary evil. So even on the Black side, there's going to be innocents and sacrifices made. Adam then asked about Vhagar, and Ulf had way too much dip on his chip in this moment, because he's like, I'll take on Aemond. and Vhagar with silver ring, we're not afraid of nothing. And he's like, even if you are, pointing to Adam. And Adam says, there will be time enough to see which one of us is a coward. And that actually is somewhat prophetic. And we'll see how that ends up later down the line. Then Ulf begins to demand more food from the servants. And Rhaenyra says to him, a knight must comport himself. And Ulf's like, best make me a knight. So once again, disrespectful. Jace reminds Ulf, to remember his place. But then they're interrupted by Maester Gerardis, who has a message from Sir Simon at Harrenhal. In the message, he warns Rhaenyra of Daemon's possible betrayal. And Rhaenyra is not having it. So she asks Adam to accompany her to Harrenhal to confront her hus's uncle. And then there's a shot of Jace just kind of looking annoyed. Like,
yeah, the hus's uncle.
Really, Mom? Your hus's uncle. That's my favorite. So I'll stop there on that scene before we get into the next part of the episode. Thoughts on just Ulf is disrespectful behind. Ugh. Kill him, somebody.
I mean, how much can you say about his disrespect? It just keep going. He was like, bring me some more of the little chickens or something he was talking about. I was like, sir, what are we doing? Like, yeah, like a bird or something. I was like, what are we doing? So yeah, he just need to put that wine down and get himself together. So I hope he ride as much as he drink and eat. That's all I can tell him. I hope he got his riding together when he get ready to go out there. I like Jay stepping up. I don't know. Hopefully it's gonna go right. It was a little shaky, but he's trying to step up and be there for his mama. So hopefully it goes right, and maybe he can keep Ulf in his place. I don't know. That looks like it's gonna be a rocky slope to go down to. Yeah. Yes. So for him, I'm worried about him on that one. So, but yeah, hopefully he can keep him in the place. But shout out to, like you said, shout out to Adam. He been killing it. She was like, I need you to come with me, because we obviously know at the table, if you ain't gonna take Baela and Jace, who else you gonna take at that table that was sitting at that table that's responsible? So we already know. I was like, so shout out to Adam for doing his thing.
Yeah. Jamie?
Oh, so I felt a little bit upset and disappointed at Rhaenyra's her strategy, because I agree with Baela. Like, are we really doing this? Are we really killing innocent people? So that didn't bode well with me. I get that what Jace said, but still, I don't like that strategy. So some points was lost with me and Rhaenyra on that. I don't like the idea of innocent people dying because of a civil war between families. Sure, there's another way to go about it. And then, Ulf and the disrespect, man, this guy just gets on my last nerves. He gets on my last nerves. I think that Ulf is one of those characters that, he's too cocky for his own good. And we'll see where that takes us later on down in future seasons to come. But the fact that he got Silverwing was kind of like an accident. Like Hugh, at least, which Hugh becomes a problem as well. But Hugh at least was a little bit more formidable as the way he claimed Vermithor. Like he was like, okay, do what you gotta do, and and Vermithor had respect for Hugh during that whole process. But Ulf was stepped on a dragon's egg or something, or some
the hatch. The
hatch. It was an accident. It was all messy and it was clumsy, and there was nothing distinguished about the process. So he's just someone who to me is just a messy person, and I don't like the way he is treating Rhaenyra or anybody that's of royal blood. So he's not a good guy in my book.
Not at all. I do appreciate Jay staying on his neck. I do appreciate that, and we'll see how that ends up. So we end up in Harrenhal. Daemon awakens to find Alice on his bed. He basically says, witch, do you ever sleep? So I'm like, oh, not him calling her a witch. and she leads him into the Godswood. Now, this scene freaked me out just a bit because he sees a glimpse of like this strange stag-like humanoid disappear behind the tree. I've never seen a creature like that in the Song of Ice and Fire universe. I'm assuming it's a Children of the Forest disguised as some type of stag. I don't know, but it was kind of unnerving. Alice tells Damon he's changed. You know, when he first arrived, he wished to rule the world, but now he realizes that the world cannot be governed. She tells Damon that there are omens at the Godswood for those who seek them, and Damon believes her. And therefore, Alice asked him if he wants to learn what has been given to him, as all his life he sought to command his own fate, but today he is ready. And Damon agrees, so she places his hand upon the face carved into the weirwood, right, where the tears are coming down, the sap or the blood of the Godswood tree. And Damon sees the vision. So walk with me as I kind of like unpack the scene, because it was super, like, when I tell you canon from the book has been confirmed, like this scene was crazy. So he sees Brynden Rivers, called Bloodraven, as evidenced by the wine-colored birthmark on his face. Brynden is revealed to be the three-eyed raven from the original series, and he's actually Damon's great-grandson. So in the book, the three-eyed raven, or rather the three-eyed crow, they say he's 1,000 years old. We don't know his origins, but it's heavily implied that it is Brynden Rivers. The issue is that Brynden Rivers had only been alive for about 170 plus years if he was the three-eyed crow. So it really doesn't matter the identity, but the fact that the show confirmed it is Brynden, and just like Brynden passed on his legacy to Bran, we're assuming that there are other three-eyed crows or three-eyed ravens. So this was monumental to me as a book reader. I was like, that's Brynden. The next scene we see are the White Walkers beyond the wall. And then we see a pit of dead dragons. Not going to say what that's about. Just put a pin in it. He also sees 3 dragon eggs engulfed in fire. We see the red comet shooting across the sky from the original series. It kind of signaled the arrival of the dragons. And this was my favorite part. We cut to a vision of Daenerys Targaryens when her dragons were first hatched from the original series, the finale of the original Game of Thrones season. And then Damon sees Rhaenyra sitting upon the Iron Throne. He hears a voice say, "It's all a story, and you're but one part in it." Then Damon turns and sees Helaena standing before him. She says, "You know your part. You know what you must do." And then Damon kind of awakens from his trance. So I was like, oh my God, Helaena is a green seer all the way. She can literally jump into people's dreams. When did she harness her power? Like, I just had so many questions. And you know, she really is doing this because you cut to her dressed in the same clothes, but she's now in the Red Keep and she's kind of overlooking a balcony. Aemon approaches her and once again asks her to come with him to Harrenhal. You know, they're dragon riders, something Alicent can never understand, and he needs his sister at his side. He wants to lay waste to Daemon and all their opponents, and Helaena refuses, and he's just like, "No, you must come with me." And she's like, "Okay, so if I say no, what are you going to do? Burn me like Aegon?" And Aemon's like, "That's a lie." And she was like, "I saw it. You burned him and you let him fall." And then she tells him Aegon will be king again one day. He will sit on a wooden throne and Aemon will be dead. He'll be swallowed up by the God's Eye and never to be seen again. So for those of you that are into the books or who just like looking up the wikis, Google the God's Eye and where it is. And then Aemon says he could have her killed for what she said. And Helaena says it wouldn't change a thing. So again, I was blown away by these two scenes. It appears that I can't tell if Helena's fractured visions or her behavior of the last few years has been just her not understanding her power, and then maybe something happened. You know, maybe she got scared into it, or after the death of her children, her son, she's learned to harness her powers because she's in full control of. She can jump into Daemon's visions and utilize the power of the weirwood. So I'll stop there because I'm fangirling. So what are your thoughts on those two scenes?
first of all, there was definitely some kind of strange thing behind that tree. I was like, what is going on right now? When they first started walking out there, I definitely want to know what that was. So hopefully there's like more reveals as everybody kind of keeps breaking down the episode. But yeah, I'm with you. Like, I didn't know what to think, but it was like exciting at the same time because I hadn't seen the book, but I knew some of the stuff from the original. And I was like, well, what are they getting ready to reveal right now? And that was the first time seeing Alice kind of work her magic, so to speak, on Damon was something that you were kind of like interested in and wanted to see the path. Because before you're like, okay, what dream trip is she about to take him down? You know, what is her goal? What is she trying to get at? Is she trying to, cop some power for herself? Like, what is the whole angle? But it's right now it seems like she was trying to get Damon to realize, his path. Because Damon has always been like a loner and I'm going to do stuff this way and it's going to happen this way, and this has been something he can't really determine on his own. So that was interesting. And we know like later on, Allison was like laying that groundwork hard. She was like, I need you to see this and this is where I need you to go. So, it benefited in this scenario. So I thought that was so interesting to see if that continues. Is this just our one moment of where she's helpful and this is going to go, or is it going to go like, left pretty quick? So that'll be interesting to see. And then, yeah, shout out to Elena. Like, girl was like going through season 1. You was like, what is going on? What is she seeing? Why is she just in the corner, just staring off? Like, is it going to have a point? So I like them being able to give her like that moment of, this is what my visions can do. I'm finally following through. I like the way she was speaking to Eamon. It felt like she was speaking up for herself. She was like, it doesn't really matter what you do. I understand what your purpose is, but I'm telling you, I can see what's going to happen in the future. So it's best that you back off now. Like I like how she was calling out her brother in her own way, because you don't really get to see Helena do that a lot. It's always like people are, I think Angelica, you pointed this out in the beginning. They just kind of ignore her. She's just sitting there. She's just there. She's the queen. She has a role. So I like how she was like, I don't really care what you do or what's going to happen. I'm telling you, this is what's going to be in the future. So either you listen to it or not, so I like somebody to kind of, it was interesting to see her check Eamon, as opposed to seeing like Allison or somebody else that you may deem like more powerful, so to speak, to kind of come and confront him.
Yeah. Jamie?
Yeah, I did not catch the Brendan Rivers thing. So now I'm going to go back and watch that. So that good call there. Yeah, I gotta go back and rewatch. So there was one thing you missed though from the.
Oh, what did I miss?
You missed
so much.
I know that vision. I mean, I gotta rewatch it again too, because there's so much to unpack, because that vision basically gives you snippets of what you can catch in Game of Thrones to what you can see as a sneak peek to what we'll see in season 3 of House of the Dragon, because there's a shot of Daemon in underwater.
And that's true. Yeah. I thought that was a transition to me, but actually that was meaningful.
That is meaningful. So that is something that is noteworthy. So I won't speak further on it, but put a pin in that with Daemon being submerged underwater, because that is something that is a part of his storyline in the future that we find out in the Dance of Dragons story. So yeah, it was really an intense vision. I really loved seeing the White Walkers as well. I was like, oh, we got a White Walker cameo, because I was wondering about that when we were talking about episode 2. Remember with Cregan Stark and they were in Winterfell, and I was like, are we gonna see White Walkers? So we got them. And then seeing Daenerys, like I was just like, oh my gosh, this is really cool. So anytime we get a little bit of a little bit of a throwback to, a little crossover, a little bit of an Easter egg to Game of Thrones, it's always fun. And as far as Helena is concerned, I think that maybe her her clairvoyance is starting to sharpen up a little bit as things are, I don't know. I can't speak to what's causing her clairvoyance to sharpen up. It might have been triggered by what's happening in the Godswood with Alice and Daemon. Oh, by the way, fun fact, the image of the tree in the Godswood, the image of the bark is actually made in the image of George R.R. Martin's face. I found that out recently.
Oh, not the second George on there.
George got to have his little cameo.
All right, Stanley.
That was really cool to find that out. But I like the fact that she's not talking in riddles anymore. She's just like, look, bro, you gonna die. It's gonna be in the Godswood. This is going how it's happening. It's going to happen on this day at 9:00 at this time. No, that's good. But I like that it's so matter of fact. It's so exact. And what's really cool about that moment is like, Aemon's like, I could have you killed. And she's like, yeah, but it doesn't matter. Like,
so do it.
Like, yeah, it's the future. It doesn't matter. You can't change the future. And it kind of almost reminds me, which is sad, but it kind of reminds me of like Cersei in Game of Thrones, where like she knew her future, but there was nothing she could do to change it. Like as sad as tragic as it was with her kids, like she could do absolutely nothing to change her future. And now Aemon, knowing his future, no matter what he tries to do to change it, there's nothing he can do. That is his fate. So yeah, good stuff.
Good stuff. And I'll say this: the House of the Dragon is kind of redeeming a bit of the last season of Game of Thrones. So a lot of people were kind of like, what was the point of the prince that was promised, right? It was never really utilized. But in this vision, you see that Daenerys is the prince that was promised. I also think Jon Snow was too, because without the two of them, they would have never defeated the White Walkers, right? And both Daenerys and Jon are from the same line of Targaryens, right? They all are direct descendants of Rhaenyra, and so and Brynden Rivers as well. So I think that that's going back and kind of correcting some of the gaps that were left behind in the original series. And then what I thought was pretty impactful is the fact that Helaena is kind of Team Black. Like she knows how this is going to end, and she knows that Rhaenyra has to be the one to sit on the throne. So much so that she's willing to guide Daemon Targaryen, the man that ordered the death of her son, right? So she only sees herself and everyone else as a player, and now the vision is clear, and she's going to do what she has to do to make sure Rhaenyra ends up on the throne. So people have always said Helaena was low-key Team Black, so I'm like, I think this kind of confirms it. So yeah, I absolutely adore that scene. I'm gonna have to rewatch it a few more times because it was amazing. So we end up once again back at Harrenhal. Rhaenyra and Adam arrive on the backs of their dragons, and I love the fact that they cut to Caraxes, because he's like, yes, finally some company, some dragons, because my guy has been just cooped up at Harrenhal this whole time. Sir Simon meets Rhaenyra and leads her into the courtyard. Syrinx lands just above them as a show of power. When they're in the courtyard, they see all the men that have gathered, right, part of Daemon's army with the River Lords. And they look at Rhaenyra, but they barely acknowledge her. But they definitely part the sea, right, as Daemon approaches, right? They part ways so he can approach Rhaenyra. And then he tells her, these men are sworn to me. And Rhaenyra asks him loudly, to whom are you sworn, right? And instead of answering her, they start talking in High Valyrian, right? Just like me, if I don't want no one to know what me and my mom are talking about, we just talk Spanish. They're talking in High Valyrian and in front of everyone. And he tells her about his visions of the White Walkers. He knows they have a bigger war to fight. And Rhaenyra is like, you sound like my father. Daemon says that they must do what they have to in order to protect the realm. There is only hope, and they need a leader who can unite them. And Viserys chose Rhaenyra, therefore he has no choice but to submit to her. So Daemon bows to her and declares her the true queen, and that he is going to serve her. So as Daemon bows, his army bows, Sir Alfred bows, right? And they declare themselves for her. And then Sir Simon back there like, yeah, I did that, right? Like, oh, that's an unexpected twist. There was a part where Rhaenyra like ends up grabbing his hand and tells him, if you ever leave me again, that'll be the last of you, right? And he's like, I tried to leave you, obviously I can't. And you know, he ends up like getting his sword in the air, like, we fight for our queen. So it was a great victorious moment. And I'm going to say the MVP of this episode is Alice Rivers, because were it not for her, Daemon would have completely turned on Rhaenyra. So you want someone to fix your man? Send them to Alice Rivers. She will get him right. So let me just jump to this scene, then we can pause. So Corlys calls Alan prior to their departure from Driftmark. He wants to have a conversation with him, and Corlys asks Alan that they should leave on good terms, because after all, he's his first mate. And he tells Alan that he is, distant, and he's kind of silent. The men don't really like trust him, and he cannot lead if he's not someone that can inspire. And Alan's like, I never wanted to lead in the first place, but okay, I'll do better. And he goes to leave, and then Corlys is like, I just want to help. And Adam's like, excuse you, right? He's like, let me tell you something. When you abandoned me and my brother and my mother, I had to fight, right? I had to fight to survive. I was a kid going out from sunup to sundown, selling fish. Meanwhile, I see the man that made me, right? The man that sired me, prancing his son throughout the town in furs, eating sweet cakes, and I'm here struggling. So excuse me if I don't want any of your crumbs of favor. Excuse me that now that your son is dead and your family, most of your family is dead, your daughter, your wife, now all of a sudden you realize that I'm alive. Like, I'm good, right? He's like, what I'm going to do is serve you, because that's my duty. But if I survive this war, I'm going to do what I've always done, which is take care of myself alone. And I was like, oh, snap. He basically cussed him out. So I will stop there for your thoughts on those two scenes, Rhaenyra confronting Daemon, and then Alan giving Corlys the business.
Yeah, I like the whole dragon entrance, like the way it was kind of played. Like you said, Caraxes looked like, oh, there go my people. Hey, how y'all doing? And then, Syraxes, is it Syraxes? Rhaenyra's dragon? Syrax. I love the way Syrax kind of jumped on top just to kind of protect in case there was going to be something going down, because they definitely didn't know who Rhaenyra. They were definitely looking around like, okay, who is she? Like, I know something's going on here, but what's going down? In the scene of like everybody always running, like they always got to put at least one scene of people running when the dragons come in. Like, I got to go, I got to take cover. So I just think that whole placement of how she, only Rhaenyra's style of dropping in is how you drop into to Harrenhal. So I love how she dropped the entrance on him. And put Daemon in his place thanks to, Alice laying the groundwork. I like how she was like, you got one more time. And, that reminds you, we always talk the connections between her and Dany. It was like, they were cool, right? Like they had this heart about them. They had this fight, but it was like, I'm going to give you one time. And once you know that you crossed them a certain way, you wouldn't going back. So I love that connection of like how they're played and how those characters are kind of intertwined, where like you said, she was like, he might have David might have kind of brushed it off like a joke, but we all know she said, don't try to come back across her one more time. Like, I'm giving you this chance. And you notice how he tried to go on for that little like husband uncle little, like head thing. Yeah, and she was kind of like, she was like pull back. Yeah, she got to pull back a little bit, like, yeah, we ain't that tight back. Like you did what you had to do, but we ain't that tight yet. So it's gonna I like to see her make him work for it a little bit. Like Daemon is used to being easy.
Yes. Jamie, any thoughts there?
Yeah, look, Alice is, like you said, the MVP of this episode, because if it wasn't for that, then things would have been really bad. And the expression on Alfred's face, the look of disappointment, or really it was more like a look of shame. I feel like it was more of a look of shame on his face, as he should feel shameful for what he did. But yeah, I loved seeing that moment. there, I had put on threads. I was like, yeah, Damon was like, I saw my future. My future wasn't all too bright. So let's let bygones be bygones.
Right.
Just be
come
friends,
on, wife. Niece,
come on,
niece
wife. My future's looking like hell right now. So I need some redeeming to do. But yeah, I'm glad that he has come to his senses. I know that the fans out there that are tired of Damon being in Harrenhal are going to be glad that he's finally leaving Harrenhal. I have to say, I am one of the few people, because I don't know if you see this on Twitter, Angelica, but
they hate it.
And I'm like, you guys, he needs to be there. He has to be there. And I actually love it because I kind of get a kick out of seeing Damon being at his like most vulnerable and him being teased and taunted by Alice Rivers and dealing with all of these, dreams and him really becoming like a shell of his former self. I'm enjoying this part of Damon. So I think the fans that are used to the season 1, the Rogue Prince version of Damon, they miss that. And yeah, I mean, that's a good version of Damon, but this version is really cool too. And I just like seeing that duality. And again, my favorite term I like to use, character development. That is something that we need for him to be in Harrenhal in order for us to see now. This is right now the revelation of why we needed to see him in all of these episodes in Harrenhal to show who he is today. So I'm all for it. And there was this account, I think it's called GOT Memes World. And I was surprised that this came from this account because it's like a fan account. And they were like, what is the most, I'm paraphrasing here, but it was talking about like one of the most boring scenes. Is it either Damon at Harrenhal or Arya at the Hall of Faces? And I was
that was like, development too.
We needed that.
The wave, taking out the wave and all that.
Yeah. And then the whole red wedding situation, that was like a payoff. Anyway, I don't know. I don't understand why people don't get how that all works. They have
no patience.
Yeah, they have no patience. And it's just like House of the Dragon, as far as like the pacing of the series, I don't get how you guys were fans of Game of Thrones, because Game of Thrones was way slower.
The first 2 seasons,
nothing but dialogue, nothing but story building. Like it really didn't get cooking until season 3. And then season 4, like it really didn't start getting cooking until then. So I don't know where y'all was at, but yeah, this was a really good exchange with the Harrenhal stuff. And then and then Corlys and Alan at Driftmark. I mean, I'm just glad that Alan put Corlys in his place. he really needed to put him he needed to put Brian McKnight in his place, because Corlys has just been acting a fool, like he's doing him favors, and it's like, no, like where were you, Dad? Where were you? And I mean, it kind of stung him saying like, like your whole family or your half of your family's dead. I was like, damn. He went in. But Alan got that stuff off of his chest, and I'm glad that he said what he said. Hopefully that sticks with Corlys, and hopefully that resonates. And I hope that in season 3, Corlys will actually be open and, vocal with who his son is in public, and kind of make it a public spectacle that, like, this is my kid. I acknowledge him, because it just seems like right now it's like a dirty little secret, and I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah. Although I'll say Alan isn't really too keen on being acknowledged either. He's just like, save it. I'm good over here. It's really Adam that's like, Dad. Alan's like, F that man, right? He's like a Will Smith in the Fresh Prince. Like, why don't he want me to?
I feel like that would change though if Corlys was more fatherly. Like, I feel like that would, because clearly he's got daddy issues, right? The way he was going in on him like that. So, yeah.
We'll see how it develops between those two. But yeah, there's more to see, definitely.
And then what do you guys think about the fact that there was someone on Threads that pointed this out, and it's a good point. They were like, why does Corlys, the black male character, got to be the deadbeat dad of the show?
It's not the writer's fault. He was already a deadbeat in the book. They just race bended it, and it just ended up being a stereotype. But Aegon's
a why deadbeat. Why it gotta be the brother though? Why it gotta be the brother?
It just worked out that way. Aegon's a deadbeat. Remember, Aegon got all them babies all over Flea Bottom and King's.
Aegon, he do got some. Yeah, he do got a lot of babies out there. Yeah, some kids out there.
There's more than one deadbeat.
There's a lot of bastards in this.
There's lots of bastards.
But I mean, I knew somebody was gonna point it out. I was waiting. I was like, I wonder if somebody gonna get on that train of like, why did they have to do the black character like, the black man like that?
It's not nobody's. It just happened to be that way. It wasn't intentional. But why I gotta be like that? So we're back at Dragonstone. This is a very short scene between Mysaria and Rhaenyra, and honestly, they have not hooked up since their little kiss. But
no discussion,
obviously, Mysaria still
no follow up,
nothing. Just we back to business. Thanks for that. So Mysaria is congratulating Rhaenyra on doing the impossible. She has her dragons. The gods have ordained this. She's going to prevail. But Rhaenyra is kind of concerned about how this will affect the innocents. She says it like, I'm about to go to war. People are going to die. Who's going to pay the price here? So although we're not fans of the fact that there's going to be collateral damage with the small folk, Rhaenyra acknowledges that and doesn't want to do it either, but that is the cost of war. Later that night, Rhaenyra is awakened by a visit from Alicent, right? So Maester Orwell got her across the bay. She's arrived to the castle in secret. It's just her and her sworn swordsman, one of the King's Guard. She admits she was mistaken, and now she knows Rhaenyra is the rightful queen. She even talks about the fact that she was jealous of Rhaenyra as a child because Rhaenyra always knew what she wanted and where she was going to be, whereas Alicent just did as she was told. And Alicent says, like, I've lost my way. I don't have my husband. I don't have my father. I don't have my lover to direct me. And Rhaenyra's like, not Miss Holier Than Thou having a lover. And Alicent's like, look, my husband died. I sought some comfort. I didn't do anything different than you did. And Rhaenyra was like, yeah, but unlike you, I didn't wear my virtue like some type of armor, some type of banner. And Alicent admits, like, yeah, you're right. I did cling to it. Alicent tells Rhaenyra she's tired of plotting. She's tired of the schemes. She only wants to leave King's Landing with her daughter and her granddaughter. She just wants to run off into the sunset and leave this whole world behind. And Rhaenyra's like, it's too late, right? So that's kind of a call back to what Alicent said a few episodes back. It's too late. And she's like, you can't undo what's been done. What do you think? Like, why are you even here? What do you want from me? You think showing up here is going to absolve you of your crimes, of what you've done? And Alicent tells her that, Aemond is going to end up flying to meet with Cole in the Riverlands, and she will allow Rhaenyra to enter King's Landing with no bloodshed, and hopefully the war will end once she's on the throne. And then she also believes that she can convince Aegon to bend the knee to Rhaenyra, as he is now a broken man. And she's like, my son, I think I can get through to him. And Rhaenyra was like, no, you still don't get it. You cannot have what you want. If I am to take the throne, I have to kill any opposition. That means killing your son in public, right, to secure the throne. And she tells Alicent, you have to pay the price. Are you willing to do it? You need to choose right now, a son for a son. And after a moment, a long moment actually, Alicent agrees to sacrifice her son in order to make this alliance with Rhaenyra. So Alicent will leave and do what she's promised. And then Rhaenyra wonders if she can even trust her. Alicent's like, look, I have no army, I have no armor, I have no way to defend myself. Either way you slice it, my life is forfeit. She simply is asking for mercy from the person who once loved her. So Rhaenyra says, history will paint you as a villain, a cold queen, grasping for power, and who ends up being defeated. So this is kind of a reference to the book, right? The book kind of paints Alicent as this really horrible person. The show kind of softens her. And Alicent says, I don't care about any of that. I want to live my life in obscurity. I'm going to live in peace. And then she even goes as far to say, come run away with me. Like Alicent is living in a dream world. And Rhaenyra is like, yeah, no, my fate has been decided for me. But you go ahead, right? You be careful. So the episode ends with a montage of all of the players. Alicent leaves the castle. Hugh, Ulf, and Adam are readied for war. They're fitted with their armor. Rhaena runs across a field and finds herself face to face with her wild dragon. So we don't see her claim it, but it's heavily implied she's claiming this dragon. The Hightower army marches across the lands with Darren's dragon Tessarion flying over them. So there's a new dragon at play. Meanwhile, Craig and Stark's Greybeards march across the crossing at the Twins. The Lannister army arrives in the Riverlands. You can just see the Harrenhal just over the horizon. Daemon walks down the steps of Harrenhal to join his army, and then Tyland sails with Lohar across the narrow sea. We see Alan and Corlys row to embark on the Queen Who Never Was. Otto Hightower, who we have not seen for quite some time, is seen hunkered down in some type of cell. I don't know if it's on the bows of a ship, if he's traveling, or if he's imprisoned. Who knows? Larys and Aegon escape King's Landing in a wheelhouse meant to transport ravens. And then we end with 2 shots of Rhaenyra alone in her library, gazing at her scrolls. And then finally, Alicent on the edge of a cliff in Dragonstone, looking over the horizon as the sun sets. And that is how the episode ends. So that was quite a lot of information. So we're going to back up a bit. Your thoughts on the scene between Rhaenyra and Alicent meeting in secret once again, and then the final scenes.
I just wanted to point out real quick, I did wonder what's going on with her and Mysaria, even though I still like Mysaria kind of there as giving the information, and she's kind of, don't forget what your mission is, like you're doing good, stay on the track. But I do wonder where that's going to go in season 3. Like that'll be really interesting to kind of see if that unfolds, or where they that's just one time and then, just move on. Because, will Daemon be back? You know what I mean? Because will Daemon be back in there? That's going to be super awkward. Yeah.
Like, hold up.
Yeah,
we ain't doing that.
Yeah, it's gonna be so awkward. So I don't know how they're gonna go with that. But yeah, that was interesting for you to point out there, because I didn't even think about that. But and then Alicent, I guess she's trying to go glamping again, girl. I don't know what, whenever she come back with stuff, it's just like, what are you doing? Like, it's just like so many things in place. And I like how Rhaenyra is just like, so you want to go back to how we, you want to pull on my heart, as far as us being friends way back when, like all this other stuff didn't happen. And, Rhaenyra came to her, like, we were all like, why are we doing this in this whole episode? She's sneaking back to King's Landing, could have got killed, and was like, hey, let's do something then. And Alicent was like, oh, no, we can't change this now. We can't change it. And here she is. So, like, I don't know. Like, I know how you said she was more like, I guess evil in the book, but she more annoying now. So I don't know which one you're going to take. Because it's like, she don't really, you know what I mean? It's like, she doesn't really stand up when she needs to stand up. Is she coming back later? And so you don't know what to do. And then she knows, like, there's no way that Rhaenyra can go in there, with all these men already questioning her and not take out Aegon. Like, how is that? Like, how is all this dream world that you got going in your head? How is all this going to work? Like, how is this going to come down for, to her just be able to waltz on into King's Landing onto the throne and she's good? Like, it's not going to work like that. So it's like, I like how Rhaenyra was pretty much like, okay, well, you go hide, but I got things to do. So, which pretty much has been their like story the whole time. So I don't know. And then I'm wondering if she goes back to get Elena, like the whole, like, I love how they had that whole scene of, and by the way, Olivia's face was working, going down that whole hallway. Like, you just see the sadness and the, you don't know what the hood, and everything. You don't know what's going on, but you kind of just see like the decision of like, is she does she go back and get her daughter? Like, is she really going to try to play this whole thing out? Does she think Rhaenyra really believes her? So it's an interesting thing. And then that whole montage was crazy. Like, Aegon's not really there. What is Rhaenyra gonna say? Like, is Rhaenyra gonna get pissed? Like, girl, you lied. Like, it was just so many things that could be picked apart. Like, it's one of those things where you got to go back and watch it a couple times. Like, after this, like, while we're trying to wait for this, like, 2 year to season 3, and take in everything that's coming down. But yeah, like, and is Aemon like fully at his brink? Like, what goes on? What happens with that? We have all, like, basically everybody's been given their marching orders, and you're like, who's really going through with the plan? Who's gonna go hide? Who's trying to act like they big and bad, but they really don't know what's going down. And just the last thing I'll say, like, the last thing I thought was just super cool was seeing, like, even though we don't know what's going on with Ulf, and the dragon scenes are kind of new, they're kind of getting used to. That whole suit up scene was fire. Like, to be able to see them to get ready and and go out there, and she has her soldiers, so she has the right tools, but you don't really know these people, right? So this is going to be very interesting. So when we end the episode, I'm like, go Team Black, for many reasons, but you're like, it's House of Dragons, so I don't really know, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll see. Jamie, your thoughts on those last few scenes?
So going all the way back up to Mysaria and Rhaenyra, there was something that just dawned on me as I was thinking about that moment. So in the background, which I thought was really cute, we saw Smoke and Syrax together as playmates flying around each other. And I thought that was cute, but also it was kind of significant because if you remember, Mysaria and Rhaenyra having that conversation about Sea Smoke when Sea Smoke was flying around as a wild dragon, and Mysaria mentioning how Sea Smoke may be lonely. And now Sea Smoke has a playmate, and it just happens to be that Mysaria was also with Rhaenyra in that moment. So maybe Rhaenyra is no longer lonely when she's with Mysaria. So maybe there's a connection there. I don't know. I just thought that there was something maybe intentional with showing Sea Smoke and Syrax together as we see them in the background, and then Rhaenyra and Mysaria in the foreground there. So just throwing that out there. And then, the scene with Alicent and Rhaenyra, I'm just glad that Rhaenyra was calling Alicent on her BS with her, virtue signaling and all of that. And because, she tries to pretend to be this virtuous person, and then she's, hooking up with Kristen Cole. But then Alicent is like, well, you ain't no different. So
audacity.
The audacity. But like you mentioned, she said you wear your virtue like a banner, and that is true. Like she kind of tries to uphold herself as this person of faith, but she's doing what she's doing with Kristen. So I'm always curious to know how the book readers are feeling about these scenes with Rhaenyra and Alicent, given the fact that in the book it's completely different. And correct me if I'm wrong, Angelica, but I don't even think they interact with each other at all.
These two meetings are completely made for the show. They've never, they were on opposite ends and they was enemies, period.
They were complete enemies. Yeah. So always curious to know what folks think about these scenes. And also the fact that it seems as if Alicent is, more regretful and, shameful of her decisions, when the Alicent in the book was a lot more vicious and intentional with her actions. So it's quite intriguing to see the dynamics of these characters. But I really liked what Rhaenyra was saying. She's like, look, I gotta have Aegon's head, like a son for a son, And I like how they bookended this episode with that phrase, a son for a son, because a son for a son was the title of episode 1. And then they used that term at the finale. So very, very, very cool. So yeah, the scenes where we kind of go through all of these moments with the dragon seeds suiting up and then seeing Allison. Oh yeah. And somebody on Threads was talking about Allison's going through her Eat, Pray, Love tour, and that's why she's having this. By the way, when I said that we didn't need Allison in last week's episode, I personally thought that was filler, but that was just my personal opinion. Everybody was like, oh, "What are you talking about? We needed that to see her character." Okay, calm down. But yeah, she was going through her Eat, Pray, Love tour, and I did think that this was sort of her moment where she was just like, okay, I've cleansed myself of my sins. I've come and clarified, cleared my head, and this is what I want to do going forward. But I think the way this episode ended, I'm going to be honest with you, it was a little bit uneventful. I was sort of expecting a little bit more of a more climactic ending. I would love to see the behind the scenes. When we do these recaps, when we go live, we just go straight live. So afterwards, I would love to see what the behind the scenes conversation is towards this episode, because I don't know. I was expecting a little bit more with the way it ended, but I think if I was in charge, I probably would have taken Damon's vision, and I would have made that the ending as opposed to the way this ended, because this didn't feel like it was ended on more of a cliffhanger. I don't know. It didn't feel like this was a finale ending. It felt like, okay, we got another episode next week. So you know what I'm saying?
2 years. 2 years.
Yeah, exactly. It just I would have liked to have seen them maybe switch it around with the Damon vision, and then we would have went with that, and it would have been like, oh wow, oh cool. Now we get to see what's gonna happen, because in that vision, we actually do see a little bit of snippets of what we could expect in season 3. But anyway, overall, great episode. I really did love it. I enjoyed every bit of it. I love the way we see the full arc of, really the full redemption arc of Daemon Targaryen. They kind of try to redeem Kristen, even though he's still trash.
We need some more.
Yep, it's full trash. Alice is the MVP of the episode. We love Bela. We want to see more Bela. And I had put this also out on Threads about Rhaena and that damn dragon. It was like he was auditioning for The Sound of Music with Julie Andrews, where she's like,
the hills are alive.
Phoebe was out of the veil. Or get to the point. I'm like, that. I was a little disappointed with that storyline, because it kind of felt like they were just stretching because all she was doing is running through the veil the whole episode. I'm just like, can we do something with that? But I don't know. I'm still in my feelings about the fact that she's potentially claiming
Nettles. Yeah, sheep stealer. Yeah,
sheep stealer instead of
bet
Nettles.
you if they shot sheep stealer scenes, that would have been better with Nettles. But we're not bad that Phoebe's getting more screen time. I actually would have liked to see her claim the dragon this episode rather than stretch it out.
That would have been cool.
2 more years.
Yeah, like why are we stretching that out? Like there's not anything really. I don't know. Yeah, I don't understand why we're stretching that out.
Yeah. Well, that's where we leave it. I will say though, the armies marching and sailing and all that kind of reminded me of when Daenerys crossed the Narrow Sea with the Unsullied and the Dothraki. I know that's how what was it, season 5 ended. So that was the echoes for me. But yeah, it's been a ride with this season. It's been really intense, and the pacing of this show, even though people complained about it, I mean, they covered a lot of ground. So I'm just gonna touch on a few differences from the books versus the show, and then we'll be on our way. So I don't know why I've ever mentioned this before, but Helena being a dreamer or a green seer is not in the books at all. She is a very like joyful, sweet. She was actually described as like a chubby, cute little girl. That just was there, right? And in the events of the show after the blood and cheese incident, Helena ends up killing herself. So they've expanded her character arc. She's supposed to be dead by now. I don't know if she's going to end up dying on this show or not because she's long outlived her book character. So I thought that was interesting that they gave her those abilities, and I mean it kind of paid off as far as how she's integrated into the story, especially now that she's kind of had a hand in Damon's redemption. And even George kind of gave credit to the writers for their expansion of Helena's character. I also add that Damon's haunting at Harrenhal didn't happen. He did in fact go to Harrenhal. He ended up taking on Alice as a bedmate. He ends up killing all the Strongs, including our boy Sir Simon. So I was so happy to see Sir Simon alive and well this season. And even Alice's character, she's depicted a bit differently. And I'm not sure if her story is going to end up like it was in the books. But it seems like Alice Rivers isn't some witch that's out for herself and gaining her own power. It does seem like she's looking to help the realm, and she sees the fate of this world and she wants to do whatever she can, no matter who she has to influence. So it's interesting to see how she'll end up in the following seasons. And this show is actually greenlit for 2 more seasons. So, stay tuned for that. And then just as we wrap this episode, I guess, what do you look forward to seeing in season 3? As a viewer, like, what do you want to see?
I want to see what's going on with Otto. I forgot to mention that before. I thought that was crazy. I was like, did Larys do that or something? Like, how did he get into that like situation where, I don't know, that was intense how they just showed that for like 2 seconds and were like, we're going. So I'm just curious how they got him. I thought maybe he was just kind of chilling out, letting them do whatever, and then he was going to come back eventually. So I can't wait to see like where they're going to go with that, and to see him vulnerable like that is definitely different. So that will be interesting. And then just Rhaenyra, like I'm interested to see if she gets over this hump, this war happens, how it happens. Does she go back to listening to her counsel? Like, has she got too far away from that? Now, granted, half of them are disrespectful, but I'm just saying, like, you still kind of need that like checks and balances of, somebody being able to tell you like what's going around. Like, you got to be aware of, who you have as part of your council and what's going on in your kingdom and everything. So hopefully she doesn't get too narrowly focused. So I'm wondering like what is going to happen. And then it's always the thing with Targaryens, right? Like, they got the huge power with the dragons, but it's like, what do you do with it? Like, are you going to always use it the right way? And it's like nobody else, the humans can't outrun the dragons. So it's always like a responsibility of who owns them. So I'm curious to see like how they continue to progress her arc. Are they trying to take her more dangerous? I'm nervous because of how Game of Thrones took Dany. So I'm like, I don't want to see, we still got 2 seasons. So I didn't want to see it. So I'm just kind of nervous for how that's going to play out. But yeah, and I want to see what the Dragon Seeds do. And, and shout out to Adam. So hopefully we get to see more of like how that kind of unfolds.
Yeah, and shout out to Clinton too. I don't know if y'all seen Clinton been posting all them stuff. I know Clinton was I'm gonna go around my cast feed, and you can tell he just loves being on set. I just love watching him pop up on my feed. But anyway, over to you, Jamie.
Cool, no, I love it too. I mean, he's on Twitter, he's on Threads. So every time he posts, I'm always engaging with his posts and hoping he notices Black Girl Nerds. I would love to interview him. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, I definitely hope that we get to see the Velaryon family come together, acknowledge each other publicly, Corlys saying, yes, these are my sons. I love them. You know, they love me, and they embrace themselves and come to terms with their Velaryon Targaryen identity, specifically speaking of Alan.
Grow that hair out, young man.
Yeah, grow that hair out. Be proud of who you are. So yeah, hopefully we'll see that. I really want to see Nettles. I mean, I don't know if there's going to be some sort of way we can intertwine that in there, but obviously that sheep stealer. I mean, there's sheep. They're being eaten. We saw the dragon eating the sheep in the Vale.
He's brown. He's brown.
He's brown. It's pretty obvious that sheep stealer. So maybe there's something that they can do different with Nettle's story. But I'm bring her into the season because she's got just such a great story. And yeah, you brought up Otto. I forgot to even bring him up in that last bit that we talked about. Yeah, I think he's in a prison. And I was like, yeah, you know, and that's a good point, Ryan. You're like, do you think Larry's might have done it?
Yeah, like what's going on?
He could have been behind it.
Yeah,
he does have motive. He definitely has motive to, you know, keep him behind bars, keep him quiet, because Otto's a threat. Because Aemon wants him in the position, and Larry's, you know, wants to keep the position. Oh, go ahead, Angela.
Because remember, Allison had asked Gwen, had they heard from Otto? Has he written back? And he never did, because he's been locked up. All right, continue. Sorry.
He's been locked up. Yeah, he's been locked up. So, you know, season 3. I'm sure Otto will be freed up and he'll be causing a ruckus. It'll be funny if he gets hired and then fired again.
Worse than Craig, fired on your day off. Oh man, I look forward to his alliteration.
His what?
His alliteration. Thoughtless, feckless. You know when he like cussed out Aegon.
Yeah,
I need more of that.
Trifling. And I just want Maester Orwell to retire. I just want him to be on a beach somewhere. Maybe take one of Corlys's ships off a Driftmark and just sail out in the sea.
That'd be great.
Just relax, you know, because I mean, gosh, they are working that man hard to death. But yeah, so I there's a lot to look forward to. And I look forward to more connections between the Game of Thrones universe that we've all come to know and love and House of the Dragon, because it's always fun to be like, oh yeah, that's right. You know, the Leonardo DiCaprio meme, like, yeah. So look forward to seeing all of that connected tissue in season 3.
Yeah. I want more Baela, more Jace. I really am so highly interested in Helena and Alice, as they're the 2 magical confirmed beings on this show, and like how they are going to help or orchestrate people in the right direction, put the players where they need to be. I love Sir Simon. I just want more Sir Simon being his hilarious self. And yeah, the dragons. That's I'm for all of it. So yeah, I look forward to 2026. I do. So I'm gonna turn it over to you, Jamie. Take us home.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning into our show. That's it. That wraps the season finale of House of the Dragon season 2. And you know, we'll still be here on these interwebs. We'll still be live threading and live tweeting. There's other shows that are on the horizon that will be coming up. So join us for that. In the meantime, I'd recommend reading The Hedge Knight and the stories of Dunk and Egg as we get ready for A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, which currently is filming, and then that will come out next year. And we'll definitely do a show around that because that's a part of this whole universe, and we love recapping shows that are in the A Song of Ice and Fire universe. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, thank you for supporting and tuning in Dragons, y'all. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.